think we're about there's gonna be a delay, so just get it up and get it ready on my channel. Should be up here in a second, and we should be live again. People are gonna be delayed filtering in, so give it a minute or two before we start probably seeing many people. Like, I've had many people telling me they get no notifications and they have the bell on. I mean, all sorts of stuff. So it's been really, really quirky and really weird as of late. So yeah, we are live now, so you should be able to pull it up.
All right, where are you? It says join. I'm already
No,
subscribed.
no, you don't have to join.
I got you.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
There we are.
Yeah, turn the volume off, whether you're going to have the delay. Yep. See, we're going to be ahead of it. We're going to be a little ahead of the curve because of OBS.
All right.
Cyclone, Michael Weber, what's going on, guys? Welcome. We're going to do a little test audio with my man John here. Make sure his audio is good before we actually kick this thing off. So, John, you want to just say whatever so they can hear you?
Want me to sing some opera?
Yes, please, John.
I've never done it, so this would be a debut.
Let's do it.
I'm not doing it. I'm talking, so that's as close as you're going to get.
All right. We're having fun now. I love it. Let me share this out, too, because, again, people probably aren't getting notifications. We got a couple guys that did, but I don't know that they want to send them all out. How does this sound, guys? The people that are already in here, did he sound all right? In depth, we are live. I'll tag you here quick on Twits. All right, Zach, what's going on, buddy? How you doing, man? Just go like test 1 2, test 1 2 or something as people filter in.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you hear me? You hear me?
Can you hear me now? Bueller.
Sprint. With wider coverage across the nation.
There you go.
I don't even have Sprint. I just remembered that from the commercial.
All right, if he's low, I'm going to turn him up a little bit so you can hear him. All right, one more time. Do the same thing, John.
All right. Now with AT&T, I got a different color shirt on.
What did you change? Quality on the other person's end is like 100 times better. I haven't changed anything. I think it's his setup because he is a professional podcast, man. Like everybody else I get on here. Everybody else I get.
I think I just got lucky.
Everybody else I am on, it's nothing against them, but you know what I mean? Like they don't do this stuff, so they don't have like usually a microphone. Like they're just using the standard audio. Hey, by the way, do you see me? So I'm sporting 2 things for you tonight, John. Before we kick it off, I got the New York Yanks hat.
I see the Yankee hat.
Hey, you see it?
Yeah.
You see his shirt? It's delayed.
There you go. I like that shirt. Where'd you get that thing?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I had a garage sale for a nickel.
The thrift store.
Oh man, people are just super delayed on here, man. I don't know what's going on. All right, anyway. So everything, does it sound better, guys? Does it sound good? It's going to take a while for people to filter in. They might just have to watch the replay or whatever, but
I see a comment that I sounded low. Is it any better?
Yeah, well, I turned you up too after that. So I think they said I don't know what Saca la Vista Fulio is. Do you know him? LA smashed them likes all. Do you know what the Saka? It's in another language.
No, I'm just learning English.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, man. I'm not even sure what that meant. I apologize if somebody deleted it. What's up, Sam? How you doing? Good to see you. All right, man. So I think we can officially just kick this off. People will filter in as they do. So tonight we got another episode of In Depth with Defness. I have a special guest joining me, a father, husband, fellow hobbyist, striving to be the hobby's best interview podcast. My man, John Newman. How you doing tonight, sir?
What's up, Jeff? Hope things are well. I know you're in a tough state right now with what's going on in the world, so I'm hoping you're safe and your family's good and everything's all right, obviously.
I appreciate it, man. I know you being out in New York. It may not.
I know we're in the two,
Yes.
1 and 2 in rankings of
Yes.
the roughest states right now.
Yeah, so I hope you and your family are safe as well. So I got you on here tonight. We did this before, only I was in your seat, kind of the opposite on your show. Are you ready to get in depth tonight, John?
I'm ready. I'm a little nervous. It's very
Ah,
unlike me.
well,
The seat. It's my own chair in my house. It's a little hotter than usual.
you just remember something. You told me ask anything. Just be
Yeah,
careful cuz I will answer. So, here we
yeah.
go.
I am very honest.
All
So
right. Well, hey, I can appreciate honesty, and I think everybody, at least in my community, can understand that.
yeah.
So, all right. So I just want to kind of start out, John. Like, where did it all start for you? Where did you grow up? Kind of where was your childhood? Started off from. Was it always in New York or?
Yeah, I was a New York City kid, Brooklyn to be exact, and I love it. I joke with my wife. I've been married a long time, 23 years,
Yeah.
but I joke with my wife that if I was a single guy, I'd probably want to live back in New York. I love it. It's in my blood. I have a 20-year-old son. He's been there numerous times. He loves it too. But it's expensive to live, as most people know, and
Right.
it's I still have family there. It's great to go down there and visit, but I like where I am now, which is here in Syracuse, New
Yeah.
York.
Yeah. So as you grew up, like the younger years, the elementary, the middle school, even your high school years, did you actually were you involved in like playing sports at all?
Yeah, I'm a baseball and football kid, and then I wound up coaching
Yeah.
varsity level in both sports. And I like to joke around, Jeff. I was a better baseball player than a football player during my playing days,
Yeah.
but on coaching, it was the reverse. I was a better football coach than a baseball coach.
John, it's
I don't
kind.
know why. My wife said I coach baseball like from a football kind of yelling a lot. It didn't
Yeah.
it didn't translate as well, but it does on the football side of things.
And John, I think you see that a lot. I mean, I hear that from a lot of people where maybe didn't have as good a success, if you will, in the sport that they're exceeding more on the coaching level. And I think you even see that on a professional stage, right? You see some of these
Yep.
players that were even professional athletes, or maybe they barely made it to the big stage. They never really had their shine. They never really made it, but then they turn out to be some great coaches. So I can kind of see
Yeah.
where that would be.
Yeah,
So
it's funny how that works. That some
yeah,
of the best managers, weren't really great players, even football wise. Bill Belichick, whether you love him or hate him, you can't take the track record away. And even baseball, a lot of catchers that were just kind of 220 hitters,
yeah,
and turned out to be World Series champion manager. You never know. Man, they're probably thinking and watching a lot of baseball and football, and so they
yeah.
learned more by watching than being in the game as much.
I mean, you look at it. I mean, and I'm not gonna say somebody like Tony Romo wasn't a good NFL quarterback, but then you get him on the side, and we're not talking coaching, but I think if you were to put a guy like Tony Romo, and again, this is not to take anything away from his playing ability, because he was actually good, and we're kind of talking about
Yeah,
guys that didn't shine or didn't have any shine. But on the same token, I feel like he would be one of those just great coaches, because we see him as being like one of the top-notch all-star commentators out there in the game, calling every play before it's going to happen, telling how the defense is going to line up on this, how the quarterback's calling the audible and where he's going to go. I mean, it's pretty insane. So yeah, very, 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 very interesting. So as far as the hobby goes, tell us about your first experience, with sport cards and with the hobby.
it's funny. It was 40 years ago, literally, and I remember like it's yesterday. I can't remember what I had for dinner 2 nights ago, but I can tell you the story from 40 years ago. I was 7 years old, so if you do the math, you know how old I am
Yeah.
now. But I was 7 years old. It was 1979, and I was raised by my grandparents, and my grandfather took me to the corner store. I had to get a few things. And I was even at 7, Jeff. I was into sports and Yankees, Mets, and
Yeah.
New York Rangers. So as much as a 7-year-old can be, but I hadn't gotten into cards yet. And we came to the kind of the front counter and sitting right on the counter was a box of 1979 Topps baseball, and I asked my grandfather. I remember asking him. I saw the pack with the baseball player on it, and
Yep.
I asked him, Grandpa, what are these? You know, my interest was piqued. And he says, "Oh, Johnny, those are baseball cards, the packs of baseball cards. Would you like one?" And
Mm-hmm.
you're seven. Anyone offers you like you want, yeah.
Right.
So I'm like, yeah, I do. And so I think they're a quarter, if my memory
Oh
serves
yeah.
me correct. And those were the days. And bought me a pack. I literally he paid for it. And I opened it while I was standing next to him in the store. And
Yep.
like the fourth, I thought this was the coolest thing, seeing some of the guys I watched on TV on cardboard in my hand. Never happened before. And like the fourth card into the pack was Reggie Jackson. And at the time,
Oh yeah.
1979, Reggie Jackson could have ran for mayor of New York and won. I mean, he was
Right.
Mr. October, and everyone loved him. And
Yep.
he wasn't necessarily my favorite player, but to me, he was a legend and a superstar.
Mm-hmm.
And getting him in that like third or fourth card down, and the rest is history. I just wanted more packs. I was, hey, Grandpa, don't we have to go to the store today? I was just
Right.
looking
Right.
for ways to get more packs. And obviously they had the gum back then, and I was one of the few kids. Other kids wanted the pack for the gum, and I
Yeah.
wanted it for the
Yep.
cards. So I would trade with my buddies, and I'm like, I'll give you the stick of gum for all your Mets, all your Yankees. So
Yeah.
I was wheeling and dealing at 7, 8 years old. They got the cavities off my gum. I
Yeah.
traded to them,
Yep.
and I still got my cavities. I just got it from Fun Dips instead.
There you go. The fun dips. Yeah, I love those fun dips.
Remember that? Well, they still make them.
I know they do. I know they do. That's some great stuff, John. It's awesome you say that. I mean, it's similar, and every time I do one of these, it seems like as I'm hearing the stories from the guests and the way it kind of started and the way the experience and everything else, and going to the store and paying a quarter or paying 40 cents or 45 cents a pack, and that excitement. And I've actually told the story before on one of my streams, about I remember, and I'm not too far behind you, by the way. You say
Yeah.
add a 7 to that. I'm not too
Well,
far
you're in
behind.
better shape than I am. I'll give you that.
Well, it is what it is, man. But I still got those years still, and we'll see in 5 years what kind of shape I'm in, right? I can do whatever we need to do to kind of match up here. But I tell the story about being able to actually, ride my bike almost 2 miles, being, a young age, and not even having to worry about, that was before the big thing that hit, at least in our area, was the Jacob Weatherling kidnapping, which was a nationwide thing, but it was a Minnesota thing that happened in the 80s, which really
Yeah.
changed that whole outlook on, little younger kids not going too far away, parents keeping an eye on them. And I don't think parents still do the best job sometimes, depending upon who it
Yeah.
is. But at the same time, I just kind of relating that with what you're saying as far as your first experience and that wheel and dealing type thing. I think all of us that had that hobby experience when we were younger kind of gained that. Like, it's funny you say that, wheeling and dealing, learning to wheel and deal, but at the end game, at the end of the day, we really did, because we were
Yeah.
trading, whether it's your gum for your Mets or, it's Reggie Jackson for Kirby Puckett or whoever it might have been. You're
Yeah.
learning that trade game, that transition of what can I get or what can I gain if I give up something. So that's
Yeah.
really awesome. So did you have any kind of, John? Did you have any kind of break in between, like a lot of us do? Like the young age, we get into it, we kind of start with it, and then there's a gap where we kind of, life takes over, we fall in love, whatever it might be, we have our
Yeah.
kids, and we kind of step away. Did you have that same thing?
Yeah. I had a couple years. So, as a kid, I just kept collecting cards, trading. When I was 15 or 14, I should say, I got my first job in the industry, if you will, working for the card store I was going to all the time. He's like, "You're in here so much, man. I need some help." And so
Wow.
literally almost all day that I was there, which was a few hours of work,
Yeah.
I was literally, Jeff, just making monster boxes left and right,
Wow.
like a pizza guy.
Yep.
Putting the pizza. I was doing that with the monster, the card hobby equivalent, just ripping through putting monster boxes together, putting the tabs in, and obviously I got quite skilled at it. I don't know about anymore, but at the time I could put those together. Like I was younger, quicker, had quicker
Yeah.
fingertips.
Yeah.
I was ripping through those and putting them together to the point where I actually would slow down sometimes because I was getting done too quick, and he was paying me by how long I was
Oh
there.
yeah.
So I kind of milked the clock a little bit.
Yep.
But so at 14, I started working. His name was Rudy. Seventh inning stretch was the name of the shop,
Sure.
and then I at that point I had already amassed a pretty decent collection from buying, and then my pay was half cash and half store credit. So
Okay.
I was obviously using my store credit,
Yep.
and back then this is 1986. Stuff's not in the same stratosphere what they
No.
cost to nowadays. So I amassed quite a bit of an inventory, and then I just someone I knew was like, John, why don't you set up at shows?
Yeah.
And at the time, I was actually working for Rudy at the shows. I was his help
Okay.
at the shows. And so when my buddy's like, you should do your own show, and I'm like, oh man, I'm doing it with Rudy. I don't want to. He helped me out. I don't want to like turn around and leave.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, you're 15 years old. I mean, and so I decided, yeah, I'm good. I actually got a tax number. I mean, I did everything above board, and I was so nervous, man, to tell my boss, basically Rudy, like, hey, man, I'm going to do my own shows.
Right.
I've done like probably 5 or 6 with him up until that point, and I said, man, you got to tell him, and so I did. He wasn't, and it didn't really go well. He was not real happy. He didn't say a whole lot, and I remember the first show we did, or I did, when obviously he was there too, and he gave me the dirtiest looks and the coldest shoulder, and I felt a little bad, but I mean, I didn't do nothing wrong. I was a good employee, never took anything. I
Yeah.
worked hard, and I had amassed quite an inventory to kind of do my own thing, and to support my hobby. I wanted to make some more money to acquire more stuff. And
Right.
after about 3 shows of doing that, he actually warmed up, and he came over. We talked, and he goes, "Hey, at the time you just caught me in a bad time, and you're
Yeah.
doing such a great job. I didn't want to lose you. I took it personal, and I apologize. You're a good kid, and you're just doing what I would do if I was 15 in that same position.
Yeah.
And he even asked, "Do you forgive me?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, I love you, Rudy. It's nothing. It's nothing. We worked a little bit together on certain things. If
Yeah.
I didn't have something and he did, and vice versa, and so that ice was broke. We kind of peace treaty that, and then I just traveled with shows. I remember the first show I did. Someone asked me. I did another interview, a written one, and one of the questions that he asked me was, when did you know, like, you were in the hobby for the long haul? Like, when did you
Yeah.
know you
Yep.
weren't going to really leave, or at least full time leave? And
Yeah.
it was that first show at 15. It was a 3-day show, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I think this is 1987. I think I made like $1,300 that weekend. I'm 15 years old, and it's
Wow.
1987. So
Right.
that $1,300 is probably, I'm not good in economics, but it's probably the equivalent like $4,000 to five thousand
Oh yeah.
dollars today.
Yeah.
And I knew then. I remember coming home on the Sunday. My grandfather. I didn't drive yet, so my grandfather picked me up when I was ready, and load all the stuff. And I remember on the drive home, I told him how good I did, and I think he was a little surprised. And I knew that was the day I knew that I was probably going to be doing this in some form
Yeah.
or fashion for years to come. Then I went to the store. I did shows till I was 20.
Uh huh.
Opened a store with a partner of mine from age 20 to 24, 92 to 96. then eBay came along, and that kind of hurt the store a little bit. And at 24, you remember back then,
Yeah.
I had friends of mine were like, "Hey, John, we're going to this concert in this
Yeah.
state. You want a road trip?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Man, I got to be at the store. I can't." Sometimes we cover for each other. We'd have
Yeah.
me and my partner. But a lot of times, once the schedule was kind of made, you didn't do that. You
Right.
honored your commitment. So I missed out on a few events, and when you're 24, it kind of stings. And like, man, I could be in New Jersey at this rock show,
Right.
and I'm not there. And I love the store. Don't get me wrong, but then eBay came along, and people were
Yes.
coming in. Hey, I hadn't even heard of it yet.
Yeah.
Hey, will you do $10 on this card? And I might have had it for 15 in the showcase. And I'm like, I don't know. I can get it on eBay for
Yeah.
$10.
And
And
here's
so
John. Here's John in the back, like trying to figure out what is this telephone. Does this telephone cable gonna connect to something so I can check what eBay comp is?
Well, eBay became, Jim. eBay at the time was new, and it became this invisible store I had to compete against.
Yes.
Meanwhile, I'm competing against the store like 3 blocks away, and now here comes this eBay, who's not even a physical store.
Who's everywhere, right? Everywhere, in every home.
And then I just put two and two together. I was kind of with it at that age, and I just said, I can put my stuff on eBay. And then when my buddies say, "Hey, we're going here, we're going there,"
right?
When you have stuff on eBay, your store is open 24/7. You can make a sale 3 in the morning. You're sleeping. You wake up and you have an email. Your item sold.
You can also put yourself on vacation for a few days too, right?
Yeah. So I did a show. On my show. I forgot what episode number is in probably the 30s or maybe even earlier. I named it eBay, the blessing and the curse, and I talked pretty much about this. And so I gave up my store. I sold out to me and my partner sat down. I told him what I was thinking of doing. We had kind of mutual inventory. He had some of his own cards. I had some, obviously my own cards. I just kind of pulled out, but the mutual inventory, we'd open a case of something together. That was mutual singles.
Yeah.
We came into agreement. Like, I'll leave all that stuff for this price. I don't even remember honestly what that price was. And there was no hard feelings there. And I did shows and did eBay and did that till probably 2009. And then I was already married. My son was 9, and I'm not even sure. I think I got coaching him in Little League. It was just too busy.
Yeah.
And so I didn't get rid of anything. Just what I had, I kind of had. I didn't list anything on eBay, so if something that was already on eBay sold, I'd find it and ship it. But I really wasn't active. I wasn't buying anything or opening anything. And so about from 2009 to 2012, I got kind of dormant for 3 years.
Okay.
Unfortunately, as we all know, Mike Trout's rookie year was 2011. So I missed all that fun. I had to do a little backtracking. But, and then in 2012, my son at that point was 12 years old. I was still coaching, but he started to inquire more about my card history. And so it became sort of, told him about it. He took an interest, and I gave him some stuff and got him started. And then I just kind of picked it up really like I never left. Like I said, I still had all my stuff. It was just kind of, it's like hitting pause on a CD player, or on your Bluetooth. And so I just hit play again, and the rest is history. And here we are. I mean, there's more years in it, but for the sake of being boring,
No, that's John, I can appreciate all that. I mean, that's a good background, a good little brief timeline, if you will, up through then. So having the store, for the 4 years, and then having to compete with eBay coming along, and like we say, like eBay really basically being on any computer in any household anywhere, where you're pretty much competing against everybody, right? And what this is selling for this, and I don't even know probably then if it was really comps, people were really saying at comps or checking solds. I don't even know if sold was even a separate sold thing was even a thing. It was probably all just laid out,
Buying
right?
the
It probably
house.
wasn't even there. But either way, you're
Yeah.
just looking at what they're selling for. Probably then it's not even what they sold for, So which fluctuates and varies. So you take your travels through a storefront, owning a store, which honestly, man, I gotta say congratulations for. And you say at 24 years old, like feeling like whatever you've at 24 years old, it sounds like you accomplished a lot already.
At,
And I
at
think
24, I was like a veteran, man.
yeah, 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 really, really.
Yeah.
And you look at and you talk about how, and I think when I listen to this right now, I think about you, and I think about when you talk about that first card show weekend you did, and you made the $1,500, which in today's world would probably amount to 4 or 5 grand. I mean, you really figured it out at a young age. I mean, you got that entrepreneurial mindset young. I mean, you went after and you got it young, and you.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, Jeff. I'll I'll be honest with you. Even at I was a shy kid, so I wasn't very good. Like the cards kind of sold themselves, and I just priced them right. If I
Yeah.
had some of the skills I have now, then it probably would have been even better. I was the kind that at 15, if someone came to my table, today when I do shows,
Yeah.
I'm like, "Hi, sir, how are you?
Yeah.
Is there anything I can help you with?" Very personable, sociable. Then I just kind of sat there, and I mean, I wasn't being rude intentionally, but I was shy.
Yeah.
So I'd sit there until someone said, "Hey, buddy, can I see that card, or will you take this for that?" And then I would socialize. But now, obviously, I'm more outspoken. You lose your inhibitions when you get older,
Yeah.
and so if I had some of my social skills now, then I probably would have even done well. I think people like to have those conversations. So when I was sitting there, probably some of them probably didn't even think it was my stuff. They thought maybe I was just watching the table for my
Yeah.
dad.
I
And
bet.
so they didn't even say anything. They just said, "Oh, I'll come back when the old man is
Yeah.
back here and ask about it." And they never saw that guy because he didn't exist. And so I probably lost some sales because of being quiet and a little demure at that time.
Right. And so you put life on hold for those 3 years. When you decide to come back into the hobby, is that the time that you were starting to think about like doing a difference like with shows or podcasting, or what was it in the hobby aspect after you hit play on that pause after 3 years?
I'll be honest with you, full disclosure, I wasn't thinking podcast at all at that point. I was just back to shows. My son was probably 13 then. He's like, "Dad, why don't you open up a store again?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Dude, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
The landscape has changed. It's not a lot more competition. eBay is huge now. Just a lot of different things going on, and so
Yeah.
I just did shows, and I just did eBay and online. I launched my website for Newman sports cards, and that was doing all right. And so I was just happy with like an online and show presence. And the podcasting just came later on. When you're in the hobby that long, whether you like it or not, you see a lot of the
Oh
seedy
yeah.
side of town, and I just thought, man, I've lived I was just raised to be a good dude and not, do malicious things or
Yeah.
bad business. And I was seeing some of that stuff happen to people I know, and I didn't like it, but I just, anything I could do to help, I would do it. But still, podcasting didn't really come into to frame until my buddy, his name is Dan Tatura. He used to work for ESPN Radio,
Okay.
and he I had Fridays off from my real job, and he's like, "Hey, dude, why don't you come on?" He used to work for ESPN Radio. Then there was a falling out. ESPN was telling him what to say and think. He's a religious person of faith, so
Yeah.
he'd say "God bless" a lot to people, and ESPN kind of told him to not do that. And it really rubbed him the wrong way, and so he left ESPN. He formed his own broadcast network, and he did daily podcasts every morning. They were sports, not sports cards, but sports.
Yeah.
and I had Fridays off, and he's like, "Why don't you come over Friday? Bring like 8 to 10 cards because he was a little bit in the cards, not like me. Like we'll talk about the connection between sports and the cards you bring. Bring over something that's like current events. This
Yeah.
guy's on a tear
Yeah.
or that sort of thing." And so I brought over eight. It was supposed to really be kind of a one day kind of thing, and we did it. And all his viewers are like, "Dan, are you doing this every Friday?" And later on, he called me later on that day. He's like, "You want to do this every Friday, man? It's like a hit. People loved it." I'm like, "Yeah, man. I mean, as long as I don't have plans, I'll be there. Let's
Yeah.
just plan on it, barring anything." And I told him there's a chance my work schedule might change,
Yeah.
and so it wound up eventually changing. But I did like 15 Fridays, and that's when I really start thinking, man, like it was like a video podcast like this, and
Yeah.
so I said, man, I don't really need to do the video. I'm an ugly dude, so the less of me on camera. But I've now proved I can conversate and talk about the cards.
Yeah.
And I was at the time I was a huge fan of Fat Packs and Eric Norton, and
Oh yeah.
so I'm like, this kind of gave me the experience, like to, hey, you can do this, yourself. And I couldn't be on Dan's show because of my schedule, and that's the beauty of podcasting. If you don't go live, unlike this show, which like I've said many times, anyone that does a live podcast, hats off to you guys because the degree of difficulty there goes up. But so I said, man, you know what? I had thought about it a little bit before. And I said, if you don't do it now, you're just never going to do it.
Yeah.
And so I jumped in. I just kind of came up with a logo, had to think of a name. And, Sports Card Nation was born. And what started slow just kind of, gathered snow going down the hill. And
Yeah.
here we are 18 months later. And I'm just very blessed, to where the show has went. The people who've come on the show, including yourself, and
Yeah.
it's just if I say this all the time on my show too. People are probably like, dude, you keep saying this. We hear you, but I say it all the time. Is if you would have told me then where the show would be now, I wouldn't have believed you,
Right.
quite frankly. And so very pleased. I'm not a complacent guy though. I keep trying to do better, like you, and
Yeah.
and that's someone asked me, do you compete against other podcasts? And it's not lip service. I don't. There's 100 podcasts just on podcast platforms alone. I'm not even talking the YouTube side of things. What you do.
Right.
There's a lot more there,
Oh,
as
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And so you can't compete against everyone's. And I learned I'm a competitive guy from my sports background, coaching and playing.
Yep.
But so my competitiveness is with myself to do a better show this week than I did last week, and do
Right.
a better show next week than I did this week. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, but it isn't for lack of effort.
And you got, I mean, John, talking about the Sports Card Nation podcast, I mean, you're approaching almost 80 episodes now, right? In the 18 months.
Yeah, we're 79 comes out Friday. A little plug.
Go for it.
King Saladin from the Tops 2020 project is on the show, and great interview. It's already been done. I've edited it last night, and I think people are going to find him very interesting. I don't want to give away everything,
Right.
but some surprising stuff that he said, and kind of refreshing. He was very honest, and really a cool guy, man, from Philadelphia, and not a huge. He was an athlete, but he didn't collect cards, and so he's kind of new to the card side of the hobby.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to hear him talk about his impressions. It's interesting, this too, Jeff. It's interesting hearing someone that really has no card history talk about when now they're like knee deep in it, being an artist on the 2020 project,
Yeah.
hearing kind of what he thinks, or how
yeah.
he views it. It's sort of pure,
Right.
and it was definitely was interesting. And so that's a great interview. The next 2 or 3 are going to be all 2020 project artist, and I've interviewed probably five already. They're all great folks, really down to earth. Many of them, even though I mentioned King Saladin didn't, many of them collected cards as a kid. So this, for them, they're soaring in awe. They're like they say, they were buying Topps pack, and now they're kind of working with Topps. It's kind
Right.
of a surreal moment for many of them.
So, John, we're approaching 80 episodes on the Sports Card Nation podcast. If there was one you would pick out of them, or one that you would say is most interesting, or was like most shocking, maybe even to you, like hearing some of the stuff that was brought up or said, who would you pick out of those 80?
That's a great question. I love it. I'm going to answer it, no doubt. And first off, let me. I know it's going to be the cop out, and every guest I've had on, including yourself, I really appreciate, because you're giving of your time. I don't pay people to be on the show, and so everyone guest gives their time. I don't set time constraints on my interview. That's what I think separates my show a little bit from other interview podcasts as well.
Yeah.
Is if we talk for an hour and a half, then it is what it is. And
right.
So I appreciate every guest. So this isn't a slight to you or anyone else.
Yeah,
I love every guest. It's like what the artists say with when they're working on the piece, that's all their attention.
Right.
But the two that stick out to me, and you'll understand why when I mention them, Dr. James Beckett. I mean, if you're in the hobby, he's the icon. He's like on the Mount Rushmore. And here I am as a young hobbyist buying the magazines for the prices. When I was in the store, I was ordering the price guides for the store and the customers. And, if you would have told me then, you're going to have a show and Dr. Beckett is going to be on your show, and then he's going to message you and tell you that your show is one of his favorites and he listens to you every week, and he has you on 3, 4, 5 times on his daily podcast, and you're listening to him and you hear him say, "My friend John Newman." I mean, that's, to me, it's sort of a surreal moment. So he's right there for those reasons. And then the other gentleman I had on was, the name might not ring familiar with everybody, but Tom Guiderman. Tom Guiderman was Upper Deck employee #1, and I had him on. We're going to have him on again because he had a ton more behind the scenes Upper Deck stories.
Sure.
And he told me off the air that I'm going to have him tell on the air. But he was the guy that created the whole Griffey Junior rookie phenomenon. And so having him on talk about that iconic card, we all know, if you've been in the hobby any length of time, you know where that card ranks. Even though it's not the most expensive card per se, it's one of the most iconic.
Yeah.
And hearing the stories of how that whole thing came together. And then, like I said, he told a bunch of stuff off the air, and I'm like, Tom, we got to have you back on.
All right.
And, and so he's going to come back on, and some of those stories you'll wind up hearing will be very interesting, to say the least. They had let's just put it this way. They had a lot of fun at some players' expense with card numbering, how they put names, pictures they kind of use that kind of, you'd sneak by you until you're told, hey, look at card number 69 and that player.
Yeah.
Or look at Bill Buckner in this set and where the tarp is, and stuff they did sort of intentionally, sort of to poke fun. It was just a fun little secrets and Easter eggs. And so he's on my list. I got, with this 2020 project blowing up, I've just been really getting all those, artists to kind of come on the show.
Yeah.
But we'll have Tom Guiderman back on.
So you bring up the Topps Project 2020. What's your take, or what's your opinion on this whole project? What's your thoughts?
It's crazy, man, because like we've already baseline here. I've been in the hobby a long time, and I posted the other night on my Twitter timeline.
Yep.
I know a lot of stuff, and I don't know everything. I'm learning stuff too. This commission, this release, has shocked me. I didn't expect it to do what it's doing. I know we had that big surge with the Griffey, that just went for almost 100K. And if you know anything about me, I don't like slang terms in the hobby. I hear other people using new money and new people.
Yeah.
It's very derogatory. It's very decisive. It's like I was here first. I'm better than you. We got to stop doing that. Listen, I've been in this hobby almost 40 years. If you join the hobby tomorrow, I'll help you out. I'll help you out in any way possible. You're never going to hear me talk down to someone like I'm better than them, whether they were
Yeah.
in it for 5 minutes or 50 years. We got to stop doing that. This is, we look at current events going on in the world right now. Is we put people, uh, and we label people,
Yes.
we judge people, and we've got to quit doing that. And this hobby, you want people in the hobby. That's what keeps the hobby thriving.
Yep.
If you're a business, people love to sell their cards, right? Well,
Yep.
you want more customers.
Yep.
So why are we derogatory to new people coming in? And so, I hear a lot of people saying with the top, especially with the Tops 2020 project,
Yeah.
oh, all the new money, the flippers, the investors. What's the problem? They're not doing anything. As long as they're not doing anything illegal, they're
Right.
not.
Right.
We can get that. That's a whole nother show with people canceling eBay stuff. But if they're just buying stuff and then turn around and selling it right away, what's so terrible? That's their choice.
Yeah.
They're not
Right.
hurting anyone.
Right.
And we got to quit being judgmental. I know it's never going to happen. I'm not
Right.
foolish, but I don't know what happened the last few years, especially with the hobby booming. Everyone's kind of, I was here before you. We're kind
Yes.
of, like
Yes.
tenure. Like there's some sort of pension plan.
Yes.
Like my pension should be higher than you. I got 20 years in this game and you got 3.
Yep.
There's no pension plan. There's no tenure here. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
And when I got in, I got in at 7 years old, but when I did that first show as a 15-year-old, I remember back then in '87, all the other dealers, they looked at me probably different. Oh my God, look at this young kid, he's set up. But they were very friendly to me. They offered to help. But,
Yeah.
hey man, if you got any questions,
Yep.
let me know. And I was welcomed into the hobby community, and that's how I am. And when I see the opposite occur, it really really bothers me. I don't know why that is. People, I guess, are threatened by new people. It's kind of a good old boys club, if you will.
Yeah.
I was here first.
Yep.
You shouldn't be here. I
Right.
don't get it. I'll never be that guy. And quite frankly, I'll call out people when I see that, and I really don't care what they think about it. We can go.
Right.
I'll go toe to toe with any of them,
Right.
and I'll throw facts rather than
Yeah.
innuendos at them.
Yeah. And John, I think you kind of hit on it too. You talk about, the judgmental, the who is here longer, who is better than who. I would say that it maybe is a little clicky as well. Like you see that
Yeah.
there's got to be like, okay, so like I'm big YouTube, right? So like that's what
Yeah.
I primarily do my thing on. So I have like the community, right? The main people that always show up, but I'm not. Anybody's welcome at any time, and anybody can be a part of this because they're all part of the hobby. And you hear people that'll say like things like, like if you're trying to help grow the hobby, you'll have people that'll be like, oh, you're starting this or you're starting that or what. No, this is, if you're collecting cards and you're in this, you are part of the hobby. It's anybody can be a part, right? It's like you speak a lot. You talk about the hobby is the people, right? It's about the people.
That's
It's
our
about the
tagline.
community. Exactly. It's about the hobby. The hobby is about the people. That is what it's about, the community. And what I wanted to touch on from this, though, is that I was talking about this a little bit with another guy last night that's in the hobby. I think a lot of times people, the expectation level out of people and what they feel like they're going to gain on a investment side or a money side, they're taking the wrong angle. They're not looking at it as the entertainment factor, like when they buy boxes or they get into breaks. or they go to card shows even, and they're not looking at the angle of the entertainment and the fun in the community and meeting new people and great people and awesome people. They're looking at, if I spend $300 on a box of Bowman regular or $600 on a jumbo, whatever the price is, I'm going to hit a Dominguez, auto that I'm going to be able to flip back, and I'm going to get 3 or 4, 10 of these boxes now, and then they don't hit it, and then you got these people that are like thinking that that's how it's supposed to be and that's how it's going to be, the expectation level again, I'll say it, and then they're like, I gotta take a break, or I'm leaving the hobby. Yeah. I'm trying to stress that people need to look at it as entertainment and just have fun. And when it comes, it comes. When you're in breaks and you're ripping product, if you hit, you hit. Awesome. But try to gauge it for the experience of meeting new people, meeting great people, and like you say, your thing, man. The hobby is the people. You want to touch on a little bit more of your tagline? Kind of go off what I just went off.
Yeah, when I believe that. I'm not going to use it as a tagline and not stand behind it. That would be foolish. And so, even when I was coming up with names for the show, Jeff, I don't know. I wrote down things. One of them for like, dude, I love your show, but it's long. Can you do a show where you pick like one topic, talk about it for 15 minutes, no commercials, no ads, and boom, you're done.
Yeah.
And so I decided, you know what, I'll do it, but I'm going to do it where it doesn't come out like Sports Card Nation's every Friday. There's going to be no promises. I'm not going to come out every Wednesday or every Monday. It's going to be something's on my mind, kind of like what you do even with your walks and your video.
Yep.
It's going to be, I just turn on the recorder on my computer, and something's in the forefront of my mind, and I'm going to just record an episode, get to the point as best I can. I tend to ramble, but cut it down, 10, 15 minutes, no real ads, and it is what it is. And so I decided to do it. Again, I'm thinking of names. What are you going to call this new show? And I knew I wanted the hobby to be in the title, and I just thought it was going to be a quick show, hits. We all know the connotation with hits in the hobby.
Yeah.
You pull a nice car.
Yep.
So I thought it just had a nice alliteration. So hobby quick hits, meaning I kind of tackle one subject for 10, 15 minutes and get out of there. It's been pretty good. It's not on the same level as SCN, but it's getting there. It's growing every week. The numbers go up even more, and it's been very a pleasant surprise. I enjoy doing it. It's sort of nice to kind of not be locked into, hey, I got to do a show on Friday, or having guests on. This too from In Depth. You got to kind of logistics, track people down, ask them. The time's got to jive. Everything's got to be work, and it's nice to kind of just turn the mic on, rant for 10, 15 minutes, and be done. And a lot of the people that asked me to do it, have responded like, man, I'm so glad you do. I enjoy the show. And so it's been fun, and it's lately I've been coming out with Tuesday shows, and I don't even have one for tomorrow. So if later tonight something's on my mind, I might make one. But again, I'm not locked in, and that's the beauty of that show.
Nice, yeah, and
then there's Hobby Hotline, and that's just me, and I'll mention them all. Drew from Let Me Get That Potograph, the 3 guys from About the Cards, Tim, Steph, and Ben, Mojo Breaks guys there, Doug and Dan, Val from NASCAR, and Mike Summer from Wax Pack Hero. We're all, we talk to each other, and we're like, let's do a live call-in show on a Saturday morning.
That's
and
cool.
We're now doing Monday nights too. So it's going to be Monday night and Saturday morning, and the hosts are going to rotate. Like I'm not on today's Monday show, but I'll be on this coming Saturday. Then I won't be on a Saturday. I'll be on Monday. So each week, each show will have different hosts each week. That's pretty fun. The guests that call in kind of dictate the show, whatever they bring up for discussion. And then the last show I do 4, is one called Roughing the Passer, and that's with Drew Herndon for letting me get that autograph. That's a non-hobby show. That's about NFL football, and
Okay.
it's a weekly. We just review the games. We do a Thursday night preview show during the season where we make some picks and keep track of how we did and our records against each other. Kind of competitive. Has a kind of a DFS feel to it. We talk about
I was gonna
like
touch on that.
FanDuel and DraftKings and
Yes.
just
Yes.
a huge football show. That's a live podcast we do Sunday nights at 9:30 during the football season.
So, John, you touched on it. This was going to be one of my next questions. You kind of hit it at the end there.
Yeah,
DFS. So you play DFS?
I am, believe it or not, for being a huge fantasy football guy who's played for, I don't know, probably whenever fantasy football kind of was invented, probably the
Yeah.
first few years.
Yeah.
I'm kind of late. I've only kind of got into DFS the last couple years. I like fantasy football better. Some people might hear that and say, "Are you insane,
That's
man?"
what I
But
was kind of about to
I
say.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do, but I like it. I don't spend a lot of money. A couple bucks, 2, 3, 4, $5. If I'm feeling really good about a particular week, maybe $10 that week. Like you said earlier, I heard you say, only spend what you can.
Yes.
You're not gonna mind, like not gonna ruin your day, and that's
Right.
kind of how I am with DFS. And some
And-
weeks I forget to even put in an entry.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's not like I'm a diehard.
Right. I would say I'm a diehard, but I'm just like you were. I think my average buy-in, like if I go to my profile on, and I don't use Roto Grinders, like as far as I don't use their service, but
Yeah.
years ago I set up the thing because they calculate your scores, like your high scores through whatever you connect with, like with FanDuel, DraftKings, whatever. So you can go to like a profile. You don't have to pay anything for it. And like my average buy-in, to be honest with you, is like $2.52. Like that's my average
sometimes
contest
you can
buy-in.
win even with that low buy.
I won
You finish.
12.5 last year in a contest. It was a $5 entry. It was Roto Grinders. They do those single entries series
Yeah.
like each week. It was a $5 one against like just under 40,000 people. I took first place. It's when
Yeah.
Derrick Henry and Fournette each had like 3 touchdowns apiece. Sam Darnold, I had him at 4%. He had like 300 yards and like 3 or 4 touchdowns at like 3 or 4%. I mean, it was insane.
Caught lightning in a bottle.
It was fun, man. It was fun. But again, I don't let it get out of hand. I utilize it. I use it as entertainment.
It's fun.
Yeah.
To me, it's fun. It's sort of in addition to playing fantasy.
Yes.
It's now like every game, potentially, I have some interest in it.
Yeah.
Whether it be this guy's on my fantasy team, my main fantasy league, and this guy's on my DFS team. So
Yes.
every game, I'm a football junkie, so
Yeah.
every game I'm into anyway.
Right.
But now even more so when you approach it like that,
Yeah.
and I love it. Again, you keep it simple.
Yes.
I'm not an expert. I like to think I know football, and I look at matchups and stats. I don't go crazy with it and
Right.
lose sleep or but I just know the games and know the players, and I just base it
Yeah.
on what's between my ears.
And I think, John, you used a word that I kind of want to touch on a little bit. You said you keep it simple, talking about even DFS. I think that's a word. Simple is a word that more people could look at or focus on, even when it comes to the hobby, right? Make it simple.
Yep.
Keep it simple. When you start, like, just trying to do too many things, or, you don't ever want to make this hobby feel like it's a job, right? It's supposed to be fun, right?
It's crazy, man. I one of my other hobby rules. I kind of have just a few.
Yeah.
And one of them is welcome everybody, be helpful as best you can.
Yeah.
My other one, it's insane, man. And if anyone's listening and this describes them, I'm gonna apologize in advance because I'm gonna pick on you because if I'm old school, man. I got in a hobby as a 7-year-old kid in 1979. You want to call me the old man on the porch? I'll wear it with a fancy rider, but we got all these charts and graphs and tracking and this, and I get it, And I'm not saying I don't ever look at any of the
Yeah.
numbers or statistics. I have Newman sports cards, so I do make sales, but sometimes we go way overboard with all these analytics, and it gets insane. And now you got these groups. I won't mention names because there's more than one,
Yeah.
and I don't want to single out anybody, but they know who they are. And we got these groups that charge like a monthly rate to people, $40, $50. Get in on our premier level, $70, and we'll tell you what to buy, what to sell. Anyone, and this is where I'm
Wow.
gonna maybe rub someone the wrong way. Anyone that pays anybody 50 for, if you pay anyone $10,
Yes.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Number one, this information they're pulling is free
Yes.
from a lot of different apps. If you're lazy, there's nothing I can do for you, but don't pay $70 because you're lazy. Just wing it and put your $70 into the hobby. That's $70 you could have bought a couple packs or singles or a card you wanted, and you're giving a couple guys because they pulled a graph and told you, look at this, pay us $70. It's insane, man.
Yeah.
I'll say it on your show. I said on my show, if you're paying anybody an amount of money to tell you what to buy, sell, invest in, blah blah blah, go get yourself a brain scan and don't do it. It's insane, man.
Right.
I've done this for 40 years. I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not even qualified.
Right.
When you think of cards are compared to stocks a lot of the time.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You have financial advisors, right?
Yes.
They go to college. They go to school for finance to get a degree, to get licensed, and then they charge people for financial advice. And many of them get paid based on how well their clients do.
Yes.
If they don't do well for their clients, their commission's lower.
Yes.
These people are paying these groups $70 whether they give good advice or bad advice. It's not even registered. It's not even tracked. It's like someone puts this open sign in the door and says, "Pay us $70 and we'll tell you what to buy or sell." And it's just, to me, it's insane. And if you have, I'll say it, if you got to pay someone $70 or $1, I keep saying $70, $1 is too much.
Yeah.
You got to pay anybody anything to know what to do in this hobby, then you really got to look internally and say, well, maybe I should slow my roll. I'm not going to tell you to get out of the hobby. I just told you I don't believe in that.
No.
But I will say this, you got to look internally and say, maybe I got to walk before I run here and learn these things myself and not pay someone else who's not licensed. It's not regulated. There's no, financial commission here. It's just when I hear someone, I paid so-and-so $40 and they told me to do this, I just cringe, man. I just feel so terrible for that person. Like, oh my God, I want to say, listen, give me 20 and I'll give you even better advice.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, obviously I'm kidding, but
no, yeah.
It's head scratching, man. I don't get it. I don't know how many people are actually doing that. If these folks are making a legitimate business, I don't know. Maybe they are.
Right.
And I guess I'm almost not even mad at the people doing it. I'm more shocked at the people who pay it.
Yes.
I could say, I could post my page tomorrow. Hey, starting this month, it's early June. I've got a new Premier subscription. It's $40 a month. I'm going to give you all my best analytical advice, what to buy, what to sell, what to do.
Yeah.
And if someone pays for it, that's on them.
Yeah.
I'm not breaking any rules, so I'm not even so much upset at the people doing it. I'm just shaking my head and scratching my head at the people forking over their hard-earned money for stuff they can find out really themselves.
Well, and John,
crazy.
And John, we got to go back to too again. Why are we needing a service to try to tell us what to get or what to buy in our so-called hobby? Our so-called, I'm going to go back to it, supposed to be our fun, our entertainment. If we're looking for advice on where we need to buy or what we need to buy, obviously if you're looking for that, then you're looking at it just more on the investment side, right? So you might as well just say it's more business oriented than fun or hobby. You know, and
Yeah, and if not to cut you off, Jeff,
yeah,
if you're going to be in it kind of strictly business,
yep,
then sort of do the work yourself.
yes,
Like to me, I'm a sports fan. You're a sports fan. I
yes,
don't need someone to tell me Mike Trout's an MVP candidate this year,
right,
right? Bar an injury, he is. I guess like I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. I think the people that are probably paying for this information,
yep,
which I think is foolish, but it is
yes,
what it is, are probably people who aren't really sports fans. And like you said, it's strictly bottom line. I need to make some
yep,
profit and not lose. But here's my question to them. You're paying these guys $70 a month. There's $70 before you even make any sort of transaction after that you're already in the hole times 12 months.
yep,
That's almost $1,000. It's $840. You're telling me I can pay someone $840 a year, or I can use that $840?
right.
And I'm not trying to be cocky here,
No,
but I
no,
can turn that $840 almost, I don't want to say almost guaranteed. Good shot I could turn that $840 into at least 1,500, if not more. So
yeah,
why would I give it to someone else to tell me? Do a little your own. You know, there's some pride in doing kind of the work yourself and seeing the fruits of your labor. And
yep,
I don't care how old I get. If I'm still alive and I'm in my 80s and this is still going on, I'll sound like a broken record. It's just insane to me. It's just I don't know. I don't get it. I don't
yeah,
get it.
yeah, yeah, man. I don't either. No, no, no clue. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on tonight, or?
With everything going on, number one, man, I appreciate you having me on, man. This was a blast, and
Yeah,
we'll have to do it again,
I
and
think
on my show as
yes,
well. To those listening, a sincere, be safe, do the right thing, be smart. Hobby wise, I just kind of rattled off about paying for information,
yeah,
not to do it. On that rant I talked about on episode 78 last week, I gave my phone number out right in the middle of it. So if you have any questions, this is a welcoming hobby. I literally gave my phone number, said text me, call me, and that's how I feel. And I know you're like that too.
yep.
If anyone needs any advice
Reach
or
out.
question, I'm not an expert. I'm not
Right,
saying like I'm a know-it-all. I'm learning
right,
every day myself, but I'd rather give something out for free or my helpful information to someone for free than
yep,
have them go spend $70. They have a bad experience. They leave the hobby, and we're down one less people. Now, those new money people might say, good riddance, let them go. We don't
yeah,
need them, right?
right,
Well, when those people keep leaving, where's your hobby at, right? You
right,
like to sell your cards, but you have less buyers now. You have less people in the store to shop for your merchandise. And so people are sort of, they don't even realize it. They're sort of hypocritical. We have too many people in the hobby. Then they complain when their sales are down.
oh yeah,
You know,
yeah,
well, if you have less people, guess what? Probably going to have less sales. Just do the math. It's not rocket science. So just, be smart. I know I speak for you. If you have any
yeah,
questions, I'm more than happy to help you. And if I don't know the answer, you'll hear me say, I don't know, but I think. I don't come across as here's the, like I'm the hobby god. And
yeah,
that's another thing going on with the hobby. That's a whole another show. But like all these gatekeepers, everyone thinks they're the voice
oh
of the
yeah,
hobby. We're all voices of the hobby. You're
yes,
a voice of the hobby. I'm a voice of the hobby. But there's no one voice of the hobby.
right,
That's where the line needs to be drawn. There's no one powerful being, and there's some people walking around like they are that person.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
I just scratch my head and say, oh my goodness. But so be helpful. Welcome people in here. Even if your style is different, or maybe you collect a player and they're selling.
yep,
What's the difference if we're doing things above board and not hurting anybody individually, and
yep.
you know we all should try to get along a lot better.
Did you want to, before we close it out too and say our goodbyes, Did you wanna all his platforms are in the description below as well. There's links for it down there, so make sure you guys follow him. Make sure you guys check out his weekly show on his podcast. Subscribe to his YouTube. He rips product and does mail day videos and everything else. He's got his own separate thing.
Not as good as you or as much as you guys do.
It's whatever, man. It doesn't matter. It's just enjoyable. It doesn't.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. Like, I want to say quick before we go is like, anybody out there who's wants to start doing this, and I know I see more and more people that want to start like doing something where they want to have a YouTube channel, where they want to open product, whatever. Don't worry about how good it's gonna look or how great it's gonna be. Just do it. You're gonna get better at it as you go. You will get better as it go. You'll probably build the look of it and everything else as you go. You'll figure it out. You'll maybe even decide that at some point you can start branding it, right? Like we have. We got our brands and stuff. But don't focus on that when you're first starting. Just let it kind of go. Just do it. Just hit record, open up whatever you're doing, rip a box, talk about what you're pulling out, and then the second or third, fourth time, fifth time, you're gonna feel comfortable and you're gonna be like, man, I want to do this like daily. I want to record a video, But yeah, I don't know really where else.
You do a great job, man. And one thing I appreciate about you, man, I said this when you came on. It's not lip service. You keep it real. You're honest, but you're a good guy. You've used stuff you've learned in your life, trying to help others, and there's a lot more you can ask for from someone is to be helpful and try to help others navigate maybe through some rougher waters, whether that be hobby or even life. And I know you do that. You like that, and I appreciate that, man. I love you for it. I think it's I'll say it. It's a beautiful thing, and we need more of that. We don't have enough.
Right.
And so when you notice people who do it, you appreciate that. I try to be like that. I have my moments, I'll go off sometimes, but
we all do.
I love the hobby. I love the people in the hobby. Let's, try to get along, help each other out. It's not always going to be smooth sailing, but this animosity and this vile, the last, I don't know when, probably always been there in some form, but lately it just seems to have ramped up, and it's sad to see because with what's going on in the real world, we need to be better. We need to be better than that.
Yeah, why does there have to be a hatred in a hobby that's supposed to be fun? It's supposed to be a gateway from everything else in reality. Why does there have to be it? I mean, I suppose it's got to be anywhere and everywhere, right? Because that's just the world we live in. But why, I always picture and envision how much better and how much more beautiful this hobby would be if there wasn't any of that, and we could just all, like you say, help each other, lend a hand when someone needs a hand, not try to be better than somebody else, and just, we're all equal, we're on the same stage. Like you said, you're 40 years in the hobby, and someone else, you may have better knowledge. You touched on that earlier tonight, but at the end of the day, we're all equal, right? So
and not to keep it going, the other thing that bugs me too is, a lot of people bag on the investor, the flipper, right?
Yes.
And the same people that's criticizing that person, when they're opening the pack, what do they want to get, right? The best card they can pull.
Yes.
Why? Because of the value, right?
Yes.
And so they're it's like the pot calling the kettle black. You're criticizing one person because they're trying to make a little money to sustain their hobby. Maybe they're not even trying to sustain their hobby. Maybe they're just trying to make money.
Yeah.
All right, that's, to each their own. As long as they're doing it above board and they're not ripping people off or scamming somebody,
right,
then it is what it is. But the same person that's taking a shot at them when they're opening their box and they don't get the proper hits, they're on social media tagging Panini or Topps.
Yes.
You owe me.
Yes.
The value wasn't promised.
The expectations.
You gotta walk the walk. That's the other thing. You're gonna throw shots fired. You better back up how you live your life too.
Yes.
If you're gonna say that, you've got to do. You can't just say it. You got to be it. And I know you know what I'm talking about. And and I know you feel the same way. And so I don't have a problem someone feeling a certain way, but you feel that way. You gotta walk the walk and talk the talk. You can't just say it at the time when it's convenient for you, and then when it's not convenient for you, now all bets are off. I think it's double speak, and there's a lot of that. That's where the phoniness comes in, and you'll never hear me. I even don't like. I'll use the word investing, but
Yep.
I don't always use the word investor or flippers. Or I try not to. I'm not. Sometimes I may say it just to condone what I'm trying to talk about, but
Yeah.
I don't use it. I definitely don't use it in a derogatory manner because they're an important part of the hobby. They're transacting. That keeps the hobby going.
Right.
In Wall Street, I know everyone compares the cards to the stock market. If none of those day traders showed up to work, what would happen to the Dow? And a lot of people would be complaining.
Oh
My
yeah.
stocks crashed.
Yeah.
Or it was a bad day in the market. My stocks dropped 30%. Well, that's because those day traders you kind of complain about in the hobby didn't show up to work. And
Yeah.
so, you can't have your cake and eat it too, you know.
No.
So,
To close this out, John, tell us again where we can find you all. I know that all the links are in the description, as I've said before, but where can we find you?
Yeah, I'll keep it simple. If you Google Sports Card Nation podcast, it'll come up. It'll be the website, the podcast site. If you Google Hobby Quick Hit, same thing. Website will come up. The podcast site will come up. And, again, I'll reiterate, I'm available to anyone. Call me, text me, DM me. I'll give you my opinion. If I know, I'll say I know. If I don't know, I'll say I think.
Yeah.
And I'm just a very down to earth. I was raised to be honest and try to be the best a person as I can be. I have my moments. Some days we have a bad day, like we all do, but I try not to.
All right. Well, John, it's been a pleasure, my man. I appreciate you coming on and being on the opposite side in the other seat here tonight on In Depth. Yeah. We got to do this again. We will down the road. Actually, we may have had a little bit of technical difficulties throughout earlier, too, and I think we may have lost some people from that. But we'll bounce back. They'll watch the replay. Hopefully everything will be there. If not, we'll just have to do her again. And
we'll do a take two.
We'll do a take two if we have to because, I haven't run into this. Like I had an issue when we first started. But, John, again, I want to thank you for being on here tonight, man. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate your honesty.
I'm not reading all the comments, but I see one from a Tom T. He's been very nice and complimentary. And so thanks, Tom. I hope I'm saying your name right.
Great guy in the community, part of the community. So, all right, man. Well, I hope everybody else has a great night. Again, John, man, it's been a pleasure. You guys make sure you go check out his stuff. Check out his podcast. It's great. He has a lot of good people. He mixes it up as far as who he has on there. Professional ex-athletes, pitchers, artists, hobby experts, influencers, he's got them all. So make sure you guys check him out. And you guys all have a good night. And we'll see you next time. Love you guys. Be good. Bye.
See ya.